She spent the night with a stranger to escape marriage, only to find out he was the groom. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The soft hum of conversation and the clinking of silverware filled the air of the upscale New York City restaurant. The warm lighting cast a soft glow across the tables, where every dish seemed like a work of art. But for Emma Brooks, none of that mattered. She glanced at her reflection in the window, her second-hand dress and scuffed shoes a sharp contrast to the polished surroundings. She could feel her nerves tighten. She had promised her best friend, Jenny, that she would go through with this blind date. But now that she was here, she wasn't so sure. With a deep breath, she stepped inside. Table S. Table S. She muttered under her breath as her eyes scanned the room. At the back of the restaurant, a sharply dressed man sat alone at a table, his dark hair neatly styled, eyes focused on his phone. This had to be him, she thought, and with a shaky smile, she walked over. "Hi, you must be Kevin," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The man looked up, surprised for a moment. Then his confusion faded, replaced by a polite smile. Hi Emma," he said, his voice deep and calm. Emma slid into the seat across from him, her hands fidgeting in her lap as she tried to fill the silence. "I know this is awkward. Blind dates are always weird, right? Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, so don't worry. I can talk enough for both of us." He gave a small chuckle. "Right, blind dates are something else." Emma laughed nervously, relieved that he was at least friendly. They settled into an easy conversation about their lives. She shared how she worked as a waitress, juggling shifts to pay her bills, while he briefly mentioned his job in tech. She smiled at the thought of him being involved in coding or apps, definitely not someone she would expect to meet in a place like this. "So, what exactly do you do in tech?" she asked, trying to keep the conversation light. "I work in technology," he answered with a vague shrug. Emma laughed, though she wasn't sure why. She was beginning to wonder if he was as out of place in this fancy restaurant as she was. The conversation flowed easily after that, with Emma sharing more about her struggles and dreams of one day opening her own art studio. Liam listened intently, occasionally offering a thoughtful comment. They found themselves laughing more than expected. She was about to ask him about his tech work when her phone buzzed. Looking down at the message, her stomach sank. "Hey, Emma, where are you?" "I'm at table 7, looking forward to meeting you, Kevin." She froze, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. She looked back at the man across from her, who had been so easy to talk to, and now she realized her mistake. "You're not Kevin." "Are you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. His smile faltered for a second, and he sighed. "No, I'm not." Emma's stomach churned as she realized what had just happened. She had been sitting at the wrong table, talking to the wrong man, the entire time. Her face flushed a deep shade of red. "I'm so sorry," she muttered, standing up quickly. "This is so embarrassing." She grabbed her coat, ready to bolt out the door. "Wait!" Liam called after her. "It's okay, really." But Emma didn't stop. She rushed out of the restaurant, feeling utterly humiliated. She had just made the biggest mistake of the evening. As she hurried down the street, she couldn't help but feel a strange sense of regret. She hadn't meant to run away, but everything about the night had felt wrong. And now, she had made a fool of herself. What were the chances she would ever see him again? And why? She wondered. Did the thought of never seeing him again bother her so much? Emma's heart was still racing as she hurried through the bustling streets of New York City, her mind replaying the embarrassing incident at the restaurant. She had just run out of there like a fool. She couldn't believe she had sat at the wrong table. Who was she kidding, thinking she could belong in a fancy place like that? She looked down at her phone, hoping for some distraction, but all she saw were the messages from Jenny asking how the date went. She didn't even want to respond. Emma sighed, tucking her phone back into her bag, and continued walking aimlessly down the sidewalk. The city's cold breeze stung her cheeks, and the night was drawing in quickly. She wished she could just disappear, but her feet kept carrying her forward. What was she supposed to do now? She had no idea. But then her phone buzzed again. Hesitant, she glanced down. It was a message from an unknown number. "I hope you made it home safe, Liam." She stared at the message for a long moment. Liam. She could hardly believe he was reaching out. Her stomach did a strange flip, and she felt a wave of warmth wash over her. She had made such a mess of things, and yet, he didn't seem upset. He seemed concerned. She hesitated, then typed a quick reply. "I'm so sorry about earlier. I can't believe I made such a fool of myself." The reply came almost immediately. "It's okay, really. Don't worry about it. I wasn't exactly expecting a perfect date myself." Emma smiled, shaking her head. This guy, she thought. She couldn't get over how kind he was being. A few moments passed before another message popped up. "Would you like to grab a coffee sometime? We can actually get to know each other without any awkward mistakes." She stared at the words on her screen. Coffee. The last thing she expected was for him to ask her out again, especially after she had messed everything up so badly. Emma bit her lip, unsure of what to do. She had been embarrassed, but there was something about Liam that intrigued her. He hadn't judged her. If anything, he seemed more interested than ever. She thought about it for a second, then typed back, "I'd like that. When?" His reply was almost immediate again. "How about tomorrow morning? There's a little cafe I like just a few blocks away. It's quiet, no fancy dress code, I promise." Emma smiled at the thought of a no-pressure coffee date. She could handle that. "Sounds perfect," she replied. The conversation ended with a simple, "See you then," from Liam. Emma tucked her phone back into her bag and took a deep breath. She had agreed to meet him. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. The next morning, Emma stood in front of the cafe, feeling a nervous knot in her stomach. She had tried to pick out something simple yet presentable. Her favorite pair of jeans, a nice sweater, and sneakers. Nothing too fancy, but still something that felt like her. She checked her reflection in the cafe window before stepping inside. The cafe was small but cozy, with soft lighting and wooden tables that gave it a warm, inviting atmosphere. She scanned the room, her eyes landing on Liam sitting in the back corner. He was wearing a casual navy jacket and jeans, his dark hair slightly tousled. He looked much more relaxed than he had the night before, and Emma felt a sense of relief. She walked toward him, and when he saw her, a smile broke across his face. "Emma," he said, standing up. "It's great to see you again." Emma smiled back, feeling a little more at ease now. "Thanks for agreeing to meet me again," she said as she sat down across from him. "I wasn't sure if I'd completely ruined everything yesterday." Liam laughed, shaking his head. "You didn't ruin anything. Honestly, I'm glad you messaged me. It shows that you're genuine, not just going through the motions." Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. It was strange how easy it was to talk to him now. They chatted for a while, talking about everything and nothing work. Family, their favorite books, and even some awkward moments in life. It was simple, light-hearted, and surprisingly comfortable. After a while, the conversation slowed, and Emma found herself staring into her coffee cup, feeling a strange sense of contentment she hadn't expected. She didn't know why, but there was something about Liam that made her feel like maybe she wasn't as out of place as she thought. "So, what's your deal?" Emma asked, raising an eyebrow. "You seem like you have everything together. I mean, seriously. I was just talking about how messy my life is, and you're sitting here all calm and put together." Liam smiled, but it wasn't the easy smile from before. This one was a little more guarded. "I don't know about that. I have my own messes," he said softly. "I'm not perfect, not by a long shot." Emma studied him for a moment, trying to figure out if there was more to his story. He had been so casual about everything, so kind. It was hard to believe that someone like him could have anything but a perfect life. But the way he said it, so quietly, made her wonder if maybe he was hiding something. "You seem like you've got a lot going for you," Emma said after a pause. "I'm just figuring it out, I guess," he said with a shrug, looking away. Emma didn't press the issue. She was starting to feel like maybe they had more in common than she thought. The conversation turned back to lighter topics, but Emma couldn't help but notice the little moments where Liam seemed to hold back. She couldn't put her finger on it, but something about him felt. complicated. She decided to let it go for now. They finished their coffee, and as they stood to leave, Liam smiled again. "I'm glad we did this," he said. "Me too," Emma replied, feeling a genuine warmth spread through her. There was still something about him that made her want to know more. But for now, this was a good start. The next few days passed in a blur of awkward yet comforting interactions between Emma and Liam. Their coffee date had been a breath of fresh air, and Emma couldn't help but smile every time she thought about it. She had never expected to connect with someone so easily, especially after the mess of their first encounter. But there was something about him, something genuine. They continued to text, and Liam suggested meeting up again. He was different from anyone she had ever met, not just because of his wealth, but because of his kindness. He made her feel seen in a way she hadn't experienced before. The more she got to know him, the more she realized there was so much more to him than met the eye. One evening, they met for dinner at a small bistro, one of Liam's favorite spots. As they sat down to eat, Emma found herself growing more and more comfortable around him. There was no pressure, no forced conversation, just the easy flow of two people getting to know each other. "So, what's your story, Liam?" Emma asked, breaking the comfortable silence. "You know a little bit about mine, but I don't know much about you, other than the fact that you work in tech." Liam smiled, but this time, there was a bit of hesitation in his eyes. "My story, huh?" he said, his voice quiet. "There's not much to tell. I've been working for a long time, building my company, trying to make it all work. I don't have a lot of time for anything else." Emma nodded, sensing there was more he wasn't saying. She wanted to ask more, to dig deeper. But something about the way he spoke told her that he wasn't ready to share everything yet. "You don't have to tell me everything," she said softly. "But, if you ever feel like it, I'm here." Liam looked at her for a moment, and for the first time, Emma saw something vulnerable in his eyes. It made her want to reach out and comfort him, but she held back, not wanting to push him further than he was willing to go. "Maybe one day," Liam said, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "For now, let's just enjoy dinner." They continued to talk about other things, their favorite books, the places they wanted to visit, and even their childhood memories. For Emma, it felt like a small step forward, and yet, the connection between them was deepening with every passing minute. After dinner, they decided to take a walk through the city. The streets were quiet, the sound of their footsteps, the only thing breaking the peaceful stillness of the evening. As they walked, Emma couldn't help but notice how Liam seemed more at ease than before. He wasn't as guarded, and for a moment, it felt like they were just two people, enjoying each other's company. "This is nice," Emma said, breaking the silence. "I don't usually get to just walk around the city like this. It's been a while since I've had a peaceful night." Liam glanced at her, his expression softening. "Yeah, I don't do this much either," he admitted. "But I'm glad we're doing it now." They continued to stroll, their conversation flowing easily as the night wore on. It was one of those rare moments when everything felt right, no pressure, no expectations, just two people sharing a quiet, intimate evening together. But as they reached the end of their walk, the reality of their situation began to settle in. They were getting closer, and Emma could feel it. But what did that mean? Was she starting to develop feelings for him? Was he starting to feel the same way? The uncertainty lingered, and Emma couldn't shake the thought that perhaps there was more to their connection than just a series of awkward, yet pleasant, dates. "I guess I should get going," Emma said as they stopped in front of her apartment building. "I'll see you soon, though?" she asked, her voice tentative. Liam smiled, his eyes soft and warm. "Of course. I'll text you." As she turned to walk into the building, Emma felt a flutter in her chest. She wasn't sure what was happening between them, but for the first time in a long while, she felt a spark of hope. Maybe things weren't as complicated as she had thought. Maybe they were just two people figuring it out, one step at a time. As the days passed, Emma and Liam continued to grow closer, their meetings becoming more frequent. Each time they met, it felt more natural, like the pieces of their connection were falling into place. But despite the ease of their conversations, Emma couldn't help but feel a lingering sense of uncertainty. Was this just a casual fling, or was something deeper starting to form between them? She couldn't shake the feeling that Liam was hiding something, but she wasn't sure what. He was kind, genuine, and had a way of making her feel seen, but there was still a part of him that felt distant, like he was holding back. One evening, after a long week of work, Emma decided to take a break and go for a walk. She needed some time to clear her head and figure out what she was really feeling. As she walked down the familiar streets of the city, her thoughts drifted to Liam. He had been on her mind constantly, and it felt like she couldn't escape the pull she felt toward him. The connection was undeniable, yet she couldn't quite put her finger on what it was. Was it real, or was it just the result of their constant meetings? When she got to the park, she found a quiet bench and sat down, taking in the cool evening air. It was peaceful here, the sounds of the city fading away, replaced by the rustling of leaves and the distant hum of passing cars. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the tranquility wash over her, when she felt a tap on her shoulder. Startled, she turned around to see Liam standing there, his hands stuffed in his jacket pockets. "I didn't mean to surprise you," he said, offering a sheepish smile. "I've been trying to reach you, but you didn't answer your phone." Emma smiled, surprised and pleased to see him. "I was just getting some air. I needed a little time to think." Liam sat down beside her, his eyes searching hers. "About us?" he asked softly. Emma hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah. I guess I've been wondering if this is real, you know?" she said, her voice quiet. "I mean, we've been seeing each other for a while now, and I can't help but feel like there's something more. But I'm not sure if I'm just imagining it." Liam didn't respond right away. He seemed to be considering her words carefully. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice low and serious. "I've been feeling the same way," he admitted. "I know we've only known each other for a short time, but I can't shake the feeling that there's something special here, something that feels real." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had been worried that she was the only one who felt this way, that maybe Liam didn't share the same feelings. But now, hearing him say it out loud, a wave of relief washed over her. "But there's something I need to tell you," Liam continued, his expression turning serious. "I don't want you to think I'm hiding anything from you. I'm just not sure how to explain it." Emma looked at him, waiting for him to continue. "What is it?" she asked gently. Liam sighed, his gaze drifting away as if he was trying to gather his thoughts. There's more to me than what I've told you. I haven't been completely honest with you, Emma." Emma's heart sank slightly. She hadn't expected this. She had felt that Liam was holding something back, but hearing him admit it so openly made her feel uneasy. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam looked at her, his eyes filled with a mix of uncertainty and vulnerability. "I'm not just some guy working in tech," he said slowly. "I'm actually the CEO of a company. And it's not just any company, it's a huge tech firm." Emma was stunned. She stared at him for a moment, processing what he had just said. She had known that he was successful, but she never imagined that he could be so successful. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice tinged with confusion. "I didn't want you to see me as just a CEO," he said, his voice quieter now. "I wanted you to see me for who I really am, not for what I do or how much money I make. But the truth is, my life isn't as simple as I let on. I've been hiding parts of myself from you because I didn't want you to think I was just some wealthy guy looking for a fling." Emma's mind was racing. She had always felt that Liam was different from the other men she had met. He was kind, thoughtful, and genuine. But now, as she listened to him explain his situation, she couldn't help but wonder if she had been blinded by her own feelings. Was she just another woman drawn to his wealth and status? "I never saw you like that," she said softly, shaking her head. "I like you for who you are, Liam, not for what you have." Liam looked at her, his expression softening. "I know, and that's why I've been so hesitant to open up to you, but I can't keep hiding the truth." Emma took a deep breath, trying to process everything he had just said. There was so much more to Liam than she had realized, but despite the shock of the revelation, she felt a sense of understanding. He was just a man, trying to figure things out, just like her. "So what now?" she asked, her voice gentle. Liam smiled, a look of relief crossing his face. "Now, we figure it out together." The weeks that followed Liam's confession were filled with a mix of emotions for Emma. She had never expected the man she was beginning to care for to be hiding such a huge part of his life. Liam, the man she had connected with so deeply, was not just a tech professional, he was the CEO of a major company. The revelation had thrown her for a loop, But she had also realized that this new information didn't change how she felt about him. They continued to see each other, and the more they spent time together, the more Emma saw how much Liam was struggling with the pressure of his role. He had been keeping up this facade of a simple, quiet life, but in reality, his life was anything but. Emma began to understand that his reluctance to open up was more about the weight of his responsibilities and not wanting anyone to treat him differently because of his success. They spent a quiet weekend together at Liam's apartment, away from the prying eyes of his company and the world. It was a different side of him, more relaxed, more himself. He wasn't the polished, guarded CEO that everyone saw. He was just Liam, the man who cared about her and was trying to navigate his feelings while juggling the expectations placed on him. They had dinner on his balcony, overlooking the city as the sun set behind the skyscrapers. It was one of those moments where everything felt right, like they were in their own little world, away from the chaos of their everyday lives. "I'm glad we're doing this," Liam said, his voice soft as he looked out at the view. "I know I've been distant lately, but it's not because of you. I'm just trying to figure out how to balance everything. It's hard sometimes." Emma reached across the table, gently touching his hand. "I get it," she said, offering a reassuring smile. "I don't expect you to have all the answers. I'm just glad you're being honest with me now." Liam's eyes softened as he looked at her. "I've been holding back, not just with you, but with everything. But I can't do that anymore. I want to be with you, Emma. I want to see where this goes. No more secrets." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had been wondering if he felt the same way. And now, hearing him say it out loud, she felt a rush of relief and excitement. "I want that too," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the city lights flicker on as the night grew darker. Emma couldn't help but smile to herself. She had never expected her life to take this turn. Not in a million years would she have imagined falling for a man like Liam, someone with such a complicated, high-profile life. But despite all that, he was still the same person she had met in that cafe, kind, thoughtful, and real. And that was all that mattered to her. The next few days were filled with more honest conversations and small moments that made Emma's heart flutter. Liam continued to open up more about his life, about his childhood, his ambitions, and his fears. He wasn't just the CEO. He was a man with dreams and insecurities, and he was sharing those parts of himself with her. For Emma, it felt like a breakthrough. She had been afraid that his success would always be a barrier between them, but with each passing day, she realized that it wasn't about his wealth or status. It was about who he was as a person. But there were still things they had to work through. Emma was still unsure about how her life would fit into Liam's world. She was a waitress, with a steady but modest life, while Liam was a CEO with an empire to run. How could they make this work? She wasn't sure, but she was willing to try. She had to remind herself that their relationship was still new, and they had time to figure things out. One evening, as they were walking through the city after dinner, Emma brought up her concerns. "I don't know how this is going to work, Liam," she said, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "I'm just a waitress, and you're running a company. Our worlds are so different. I don't want to get in the way of what you've worked so hard for." Liam stopped walking, turning to face her. "Emma," he said, his voice firm but gentle, "I don't care about any of that. You're not just a waitress. You're someone I care about, and I want you in my life, no matter what. We'll figure this out together. If you're willing to try, so am I." Emma felt her heart swell at his words. She had never felt more sure of anything in her life. This was it. This was the beginning of something real. The uncertainty still lingered, of course. But for the first time, Emma felt like she wasn't alone in this. They were in it together, and that was enough for her. As they continued their walk, hand in hand, Emma realized that the future was uncertain. But as long as they were honest with each other and willing to make it work, they could face anything that came their way. She had no idea what was in store for them, but one thing was certain: she was ready to find out. As the days turned into weeks, Emma and Liam's connection deepened, but so did the complexity of their relationship. Emma had never been in a relationship that felt so real and yet so complicated. Liam's world, the one she was now trying to navigate, was far different from her own. She was still a waitress, living paycheck to paycheck, while Liam was a millionaire CEO with responsibilities that extended far beyond her comprehension. But as much as the differences between them were glaring, the bond they shared seemed to grow stronger. They spent their weekends exploring the city, talking about everything and nothing. Yet, despite their closeness, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was something still holding Liam back. He had started to open up more about his life, his career, and his past. But she still felt like there was a part of him that remained hidden. One evening, after dinner at a cozy restaurant they frequented, Liam walked her back to her apartment. The city streets were quiet, the hum of the busy world seemingly muffled by the soft, cool night air. Emma glanced up at him, trying to gauge his mood. He had been quieter than usual that evening, his mind somewhere else. "Liam," she said, her voice tentative. "Is everything okay? You've been a little distant lately." He glanced at her, his expression guarded. He seemed to hesitate before responding. "I've just been dealing with some stuff at work," he said, his voice low. "Nothing you need to worry about." But Emma knew him better than that. She could tell when something was bothering him, and it wasn't just work. She stopped walking and turned to face him. "Liam, we've been through a lot together already. If there's something going on, you can tell me." For a moment, he didn't say anything. He just stood there, looking at her with a mix of frustration and something else, something that made Emma's chest tighten. "I don't want to drag you into my problems, Emma," he said finally, his voice strained. "You have enough on your plate already." Emma shook her head. "That's not how this works. We're in this together, remember? If you're having a hard time, I want to be here for you, just like you've been here for me." Liam looked at her, his gaze softening. He opened his mouth to say something, but before he could speak, the sound of his phone buzzing in his pocket interrupted him. He glanced at the screen and sighed, clearly frustrated. "It's work," he muttered. "I'll have to take this." Emma nodded, stepping back to give him some space. She watched as he answered the call, his expression darkening with each passing second. Whatever it was, it clearly wasn't good. She tried not to eavesdrop, but she could catch bits and pieces of the conversation. Words like deadline, financial reports, and company merger floated through the air. Emma knew it was all business jargon that she didn't fully understand. But it was clear that the pressure of his role was getting to him. After a few minutes, Liam hung up, his face tense. He turned to Emma, his eyes apologetic. "I'm sorry," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I didn't mean to let work spill into our time." Emma smiled gently, reaching out to touch his arm. "It's okay," she said softly. "I get it. You're under a lot of pressure." But deep down, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. She had known that Liam's life was complicated, but hearing him talk about his job so intensely, seeing how it consumed him, made her wonder just how much of a future they could have together. Could she keep up with the whirlwind of his life? Or would she always feel like she was on the outside looking in? The thought gnawed at her, but she didn't want to say anything to make him feel guilty. He was already carrying so much weight on his shoulders. "How about we take a break this weekend?" she suggested, trying to lighten the mood. "We could just get away for a day, maybe a hike or something." Liam looked at her, a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "A hike, huh?" he teased. "I'm not sure how well I'd do in nature." "We could start small," Emma said, grinning. "Baby steps." Liam chuckled, the tension in his body easing a bit. Okay. A hike sounds good. Let's do it." It wasn't much, but the simple suggestion of spending time together away from the chaos of their lives seemed to lift both of their spirits. As they walked the rest of the way to her apartment, Emma felt a sense of hope that maybe they could find a way to make this work, despite all the challenges. Liam's world was vast, complicated, and demanding, but she wasn't ready to give up on him, or on them, just yet. The next morning, they set out on their hike. Liam, in his jeans and sneakers, was a far cry from the polished CEO he usually was, and Emma couldn't help but laugh at how out of place he seemed in the woods. But she loved it. She loved seeing this side of him, this relaxed, carefree Liam who didn't have to worry about board meetings or financial reports. For the first time in a while, Emma felt like she could just enjoy the moment, enjoy being with him, without any distractions. The hike was challenging but beautiful. The trail was lined with tall trees, and the air was crisp and fresh. Liam, though not an experienced hiker, was game to keep going. and Emma was impressed by his determination. They reached the top of the hill, where they could see the entire valley below, the rolling hills stretching for miles. They sat down on a rock, taking in the view, and for a moment it felt like nothing else mattered. "This was a good idea," Liam said, his voice soft, a sense of peace settling over him. Emma smiled, feeling content. "I'm glad you think so." As they sat there, side by side, Emma realized that despite all the uncertainties, despite the pressure of Liam's world and the differences between them, she was exactly where she wanted to be. With him. And maybe, just maybe, they could figure out how to make it work, one step at a time. The weekend spent hiking together had been exactly what Emma and Liam needed. It was a rare moment of peace amidst the chaos of their lives. The simplicity of the nature surrounding them, the absence of phones and work calls, allowed them to be fully present with each other. As they made their way back from the hike, Emma couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of hope. She had always known that relationships weren't easy, especially when the people involved came from two completely different worlds. But something about Liam made her want to try. When they returned to the city, however, the weight of Liam's responsibilities quickly crept back in. His phone buzzed constantly with messages and calls from his team, and the stress of managing a billion-dollar company seemed to catch up with him. Emma noticed the familiar tension in his posture, the way his brow furrowed when he read his emails. It was a reminder of how different their worlds were, how much she still didn't understand about his daily life. One evening, after dinner, Liam's phone rang again. He stared at it for a moment before answering it. "Yeah, this is Liam. What's the issue now?" Emma watched him closely as he talked, his voice sharp, authoritative. She could tell he was trying to keep his frustration in check, but it was clear he was on edge. When the call ended, he exhaled deeply, setting the phone down on the table with a thud. "Sorry about that," he said, rubbing his eyes. "It's just one of those weeks." Emma felt a pang of sympathy, but she also couldn't ignore the fact that this was becoming a pattern. Liam's work was always there, always demanding his attention. She understood that it was part of who he was, part of what he had built, but it didn't make it any easier to deal with. "Liam," she said carefully, trying to keep her voice light. "You're not a robot, you know. You need to take care of yourself, too." He looked at her, his expression softening slightly. "I know. It's just hard to shut it off sometimes. Everything's always moving, always changing. The stakes are high, and I can't afford to let anything slip." Emma nodded, understanding the pressure he was under, but still, a part of her wished he could find a balance. She wasn't asking him to change his life or abandon his ambitions. She just wanted to feel like they had a place in his world, like he had time for them. "I get it," she said softly. "But if you keep pushing yourself this hard, something's going to break. And I don't want that to be you." Liam sighed, his shoulders slumping. "You're right," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I just don't know how to stop." Emma reached across the table, gently taking his hand in hers. "You don't have to do it all alone. You've got me. You've got us." He looked at her, his gaze intense, as if he were searching for something in her eyes. "I'm not used to relying on anyone," he said quietly. "But I'm trying to change that." Emma smiled, squeezing his hand. "You don't have to do it all at once. We'll figure it out, one step at a time." The conversation lingered in the air, an unspoken understanding between them. Emma knew it wouldn't be easy for Liam to change his habits, to find a way to balance his work with his personal life, but she was willing to be patient. They had made it this far, and she wasn't about to give up on him or on them now. The next few weeks were a mix of progress and setbacks. Liam tried to make more time for her, setting boundaries with his team and taking breaks when he could. They continued to explore the city together, finding new places to eat, new spots to relax. But even as they spent more time together, Emma could see the strain in Liam's eyes, the way he would still get caught up in his work when he was supposed to be enjoying a moment with her. One evening, as they were walking home after a dinner date, Emma stopped him. "Liam, we need to talk," she said, her voice serious. He looked at her, his brow furrowing. "What's wrong?" "I don't want to keep pushing you, but I need to know something," she said, taking a deep breath. "Do you want this? Us? Or are you just going through the motions because you feel like you have to?" Liam looked at her, his expression unreadable. "What do you mean?" he asked quietly. Emma met his gaze, her heart pounding. I mean, do you want to be with me? Or are you just trying to make it work because it's what I want? There was a long pause before he spoke, and Emma could see the gears turning in his mind. I want to be with you, he said finally, his voice soft but certain. But I'm still figuring out how to balance everything. Emma nodded, trying to process his words. I don't need you to have it all figured out right now, but I need to know that this isn't just something you're doing out of obligation. Liam reached for her hand, his touch gentle. It's not an obligation, Emma. I want this. I want you. I just don't know how to make it all work yet. Emma looked at him, her heart swelling with emotion. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but hearing him say the words she had been longing to hear made everything feel worth it. We'll figure it out, she said, a small smile tugging at the corner of her lips. One step at a time. As the days passed after their heartfelt conversation, Emma began to feel a sense of relief and hope. Liam's words had reassured her more than she realized. He wasn't just going through the motions. He truly wanted to be with her, and that made all the difference. But even though things seemed to be moving forward, there were still moments when Emma could feel the weight of Liam's responsibilities bearing down on him. He was doing his best to set boundaries with his work, but sometimes it felt like the stress would get the better of him. One evening, after another long day at the office, Liam was noticeably exhausted. They were sitting on his balcony, the soft hum of the city in the background, but Emma could see how tired he was. His usual spark was dimmed, and the lines of stress on his face were more pronounced. Liam, you okay? Emma asked, gently placing her hand on his. He sighed, rubbing his temples. I don't know, he admitted, looking out at the skyline. It's just, everything's piling up. I've got deadlines, meetings, investors breathing down my neck. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Emma frowned, her heart aching at the sight of him like this. She knew his job was demanding, but it hurt to see him so worn down. You need to take a break, Liam. You can't keep going like this. It's not healthy. Liam shook his head. I don't have the luxury of taking a break. If I don't push through, everything falls apart. The company, my team, everything. Emma leaned in, her voice soft but firm. You're not just a CEO, Liam. You're a person too. And I care about you. I don't want you to burn out. Liam looked at her, his eyes searching hers. He was quiet for a moment before speaking again. I know you're right. I've been so focused on the company that I've forgotten what really matters. I've been pushing myself, pushing us, too hard. Emma smiled gently, squeezing his hand. It's okay. We'll figure it out. But you need to take care of yourself first. I don't want to lose you to work. Liam's expression softened, and for the first time in a long while, he seemed to let down his guard. I don't want to lose you either, he said quietly. You've become such an important part of my life, and I don't want to mess that up. The weight of his words hung in the air, and Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was clear that they were both starting to understand what truly mattered, not just their careers or ambitions, but the connection they shared. The next day, Liam made a decision. He called his assistant and asked to reschedule some of his meetings, pushing back the deadlines that were causing him so much stress. It wasn't easy for him. He was used to being in control, always moving at full speed. But he realized that he needed to slow down, at least for a while, if he wanted to make their relationship work. Emma could see the change in him almost immediately. He was more relaxed, more present. He made time for her in a way he hadn't before, and it felt like they were finally finding a balance. They spent the weekend together, exploring the city, laughing, and enjoying each other's company without the constant pressure of work hanging over their heads. For the first time in a while, Emma felt like she had him to herself completely. As they walked through a park one afternoon, Liam turned to her, his expression thoughtful. I've been thinking, he said, maybe it's time for a bigger change, a change in how I balance my work and my life. I don't want to keep running myself into the ground. Emma looked at him, her heart swelling. What are you saying? She asked softly. Liam smiled, a genuine, content smile. I'm saying I want to take a step back from some of the pressure. I want to make more room for the things that matter. For us. Emma felt a surge of emotion. She had seen how hard Liam had worked to get where he was, and to hear him say that he was willing to prioritize their relationship, to prioritize himself, was something she hadn't expected. Liam, that means a lot to me. she said, her voice thick with emotion. You don't have to prove anything to me. I'm already proud of you, of everything you've accomplished, but I'm so glad to see you putting yourself first. He nodded, looking down at their intertwined hands. I've realized that no amount of success or money is worth it if I lose what really matters. I've been so focused on my career, but I almost lost sight of what makes me happy. What makes me feel whole? Emma smiled, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. She had always known that Liam was more than just his job, but now he was finally seeing it too. So, what's next? She asked, her voice light. What are we doing now? Liam grinned, his eyes lighting up. Well, for starters, I think we should keep doing exactly what we're doing now, enjoying each other's company, taking things one day at a time. But also, he added, his tone turning more serious, I want to build something with you, not just a relationship, but a life, together. Emma's heart skipped a beat. It was everything she had hoped for, everything she had dreamed of. They weren't just surviving this relationship, they were building something real. And for the first time in a long while, Emma felt like everything was falling into place. They had come a long way, but the road ahead felt full of possibilities, full of promise. As they walked hand in hand through the park, Emma knew that this was just the beginning of something beautiful, something worth fighting for. The changes Liam had promised started to take shape, and Emma could feel it. They had reached a turning point in their relationship. No longer was Liam consumed by the constant pressure of his career. Instead, he was making room for her, for them. For the first time, it felt like they were in sync, working together to build something real. They spent their days off in the city, visiting the places they loved and exploring new ones. Liam was more present, more relaxed, and Emma could see the difference in him. He was beginning to learn how to balance his demanding job with the things that truly mattered. But even as they grew closer, Emma couldn't ignore the undercurrent of anxiety she still felt. It wasn't about Liam or their relationship, it was about her own insecurities. She had always been a small-town girl, working as a waitress, scraping by. She loved the life she had. But sometimes, she couldn't help but wonder if she was good enough for Liam. He was a millionaire CEO, and though he had shown her time and time again that he cared about her for who she was, there were moments when doubt crept in. One afternoon, as they sat together in a quiet cafe, Emma looked at him across the table, her mind racing. She knew they had come a long way, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the life they were building was always going to be a little out of her reach. Liam looked up from his phone and noticed the change in her demeanor. He could sense something was bothering her. Hey, he said softly, his voice gentle. What's going on in that head of yours? Emma hesitated for a moment before speaking. I don't know, Liam. I keep thinking that maybe I'm not enough. You're this huge success, and I'm just, well, me. A waitress. What do I have to offer someone like you? Liam's face softened, and he reached across the table, taking her hand in his. Emma, don't ever think that, he said firmly. What we have is real. It's not about your job or your past. It's about who you are. You're smart, funny, kind, and you've got a heart that's bigger than anything I could ever ask for. You've shown me things I never thought I'd experience. Emma looked down at their hands, the warmth of his touch grounding her. But the doubt still lingered. I just feel like I don't belong in your world, she admitted quietly. Liam squeezed her hand, leaning in closer. That's where you're wrong. You belong in my world because you're the person I want to be with. You're not some side thing or someone to keep around until I get bored. You're everything I've been looking for, and I didn't even know it until you came into my life. Emma looked into his eyes, and for the first time in a while, she felt a sense of peace. Liam wasn't just saying the words, she could see the sincerity in his eyes, feel it in the way he held her. He really meant it. But it's not just about you and me, Emma said after a pause. It's about everything else. Your company, your life. I feel like I'm always going to be the one holding you back, no matter how hard I try. Liam shook his head, his eyes narrowing in concern. Emma, you're not holding me back. You've never held me back. You've been my support, my balance. You make me want to be better. And as for my company and all that other stuff, he paused, taking a deep breath. That's my problem, not yours. You don't need to worry about it. I've already made my decision. You're the one I want. You're the one I'm choosing. And if that means making some changes in my life, I'll do it." Emma felt a weight lift off her shoulders, but the doubt still lingered. She wasn't sure how this would all work out, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid to try. They had come this far, and it seemed that together they could make it through anything. As they finished their coffee and walked out into the busy streets of the city, Emma realized something important. She wasn't just Liam's girlfriend. And he wasn't just her boyfriend. They were partners. And partnerships weren't easy, but they were built on trust, honesty, and understanding. And for the first time, Emma truly believed that they could make it work. The road ahead wouldn't always be smooth. There would be challenges: Liam's job, her own insecurities, the differences in their backgrounds, but they were in this together, and that was enough. They continued walking side by side, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. No matter what happened, Emma knew one thing for sure. She wasn't just enough for Liam, she was exactly what he needed. And maybe, just maybe, she was starting to believe that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The weeks following their conversation felt like a new beginning for both Emma and Liam. There was still uncertainty in the air, but something had shifted. Emma could see it in Liam's eyes. The weight of his responsibilities was still there, but he was starting to embrace the idea of balance. He was beginning to realize that there was more to life than just work, more to life than just his company. And for the first time, it felt like he was really present in their relationship, not just physically, but emotionally. Emma had always known that she loved him. But now, she felt that he was truly committed to making it work, to making space for her in his life. They spent more time together, simple things like cooking dinner at home, walking through the park, and even just sitting quietly, enjoying each other's company. It wasn't glamorous or exciting, but it was real. It was the kind of life Emma had always dreamed of. But even as things felt like they were falling into place, Emma couldn't shake the lingering feeling that there was something missing. It wasn't about Liam. It was about herself. She loved him deeply, but she still had her own doubts, her own insecurities. She had spent so much time building a life for herself, working hard at her job, trying to make a living, that she often wondered if she was truly enough for someone like him. They had come so far together, but could their different worlds ever truly merge? Could she ever really feel like she belonged in Liam's world? One evening, after a quiet dinner together, Emma found herself lost in thought. She had been thinking about her own life, her dreams, and the future. She knew she couldn't keep living in the shadow of Liam's success. She needed to carve out a future for herself, one that wasn't just defined by her relationship. But how could she do that? She didn't want to lose him. He had become such an important part of her life, and she couldn't imagine being without him. As she sat on the couch, Liam beside her, she felt the weight of these thoughts pressing down on her. She knew she needed to talk to him, but she wasn't sure how to bring it up. He had been so supportive, so understanding, but she didn't want to burden him with her own feelings of inadequacy. Finally, she took a deep breath and turned to him. "Liam," she said softly, her voice hesitant. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. About us. About my own life." He looked at her, his expression softening. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice gentle. Emma hesitated, gathering her thoughts. "I don't know, Liam. I love you, I really do. But sometimes, I feel like I'm not enough. Like I'm not really part of your world. I mean, look at us. You're this incredibly successful CEO, and I'm just me. I don't want to hold you back, but sometimes it feels like I'm standing in the way of you reaching your full potential." Liam's face immediately softened, and he took her hand in his. "Emma," he said, his voice calm and reassuring, "you are more than enough. I'm not with you because of what you do or don't do. I'm with you because of who you are. I don't care about the title or the job or the money. I care about you. I care about the way you make me feel, the way you make me see the world. You're not standing in my way. You're my partner, and you've always been enough." Emma felt the tears welling up in her eyes as she listened to his words. She had always been afraid of not measuring up, of not being good enough for him, but here he was, telling her that she was everything he needed. "I'm sorry," she whispered, wiping her eyes. "I don't want to feel like this. I just want to be the best for you, but sometimes it's hard." Liam pulled her into his arms, holding her close. "I know it's hard, but we're in this together, Emma. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be real. We don't have to have all the answers, but as long as we're honest with each other, we'll figure it out." Emma closed her eyes, letting herself relax into his embrace. For the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of peace. She realized that she didn't have to have it all figured out right now. She didn't have to be perfect. They just had to keep moving forward, one step at a time. "I want this," she said, her voice soft. "I want to be with you, Liam. I want to build a life with you, but I also want to build my own life too. I want to feel like I'm not just part of your world, but that I'm living my own life, my own dreams." Liam nodded, his fingers gently brushing her hair. "You will, Emma. You're already doing it. You've got your own dreams, your own life. And I'll be here to support you every step of the way. We don't have to fit into anyone's mold, not even our own. We just have to be ourselves, together." Emma smiled, her heart swelling with love. She knew there were challenges ahead, but for the first time, she felt like they could face them together. She wasn't just a waitress in his world. She was a woman with her own dreams, her own strengths, and her own future. And no matter what came next, they would make it work. Together. As the days passed, Emma and Liam continued to grow closer, their bond strengthening with each conversation, each quiet moment shared. There was a new sense of peace between them, a quiet understanding that, no matter how different their worlds were, they could make it work. Liam had made a commitment to prioritize their relationship, and Emma, in turn, had started to believe that maybe she wasn't just a visitor in his world, she was a part of it. Yet, as their connection deepened, Emma couldn't help but notice the pressure Liam was still under. His work, though slightly less consuming, continued to weigh heavily on him. He had made efforts to take time off, but the demands of his company were relentless, and every time the phone rang or an email came through, it seemed like a piece of him was pulled away from her. It was clear that Liam was trying to find balance, but Emma also understood that some things were simply out of his control. One afternoon, as they were sitting in a quiet cafe, enjoying a rare moment of tranquility, Emma noticed the familiar tension in Liam's shoulders. He was distracted, his eyes glancing at his phone every few minutes. "Liam," she said softly, her voice filled with concern. "I know things are still stressful for you, but I need to ask you something." He looked at her, his expression softening as he put his phone down. "What is it?" he asked, his voice laced with uncertainty. Emma took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "I know you're trying, Liam. I see that. But sometimes, I feel like I'm competing with your company. Like it's always in the background, taking up your time and attention. I don't want to be selfish, but I need to know, where do I fit into this?" Liam's eyes widened, and for a moment, Emma worried she had said the wrong thing. But then he reached across the table, taking her hand in his touch reassuring. "You're not competing with anything, Emma," he said, his voice steady. "You're everything to me. I know I've let work take over at times, and I'm sorry for that, but I'm working on it. You're right, I've been putting it first for too long." Emma nodded slowly, but she still felt that nagging doubt. "I'm not saying I don't understand your commitments, but I don't want to feel like I'm always second place, like I'm just fitting in when there's space." Liam squeezed her hand, his gaze intense. "I promise you, Emma, you're not second place. I can't be perfect, but I'm trying. And I need you to know that I'm in this with you, completely. My company doesn't define me. You do." Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. She had always known that Liam cared, but hearing him say it aloud made her believe it more than ever. But the truth was, there were still things she hadn't fully processed, still questions she needed answers to. "I need to know, Liam," she said, her voice quieter now. "Can we really make this work? With everything your work, my life, all the differences between us, can we find a way?" Liam looked at her, and for a moment, Emma saw the vulnerability in his eyes. It was a side of him she hadn't seen much of before. "I don't have all the answers, Emma," he said, his voice low and honest. "But I do know this. I want to try. I want to make it work. We're not perfect, and it's going to be hard, but I believe in us." Emma's heart swelled with emotion. She had been so afraid of all the ways this could fall apart. But in this moment, she realized that the fear was starting to fade. They had their challenges, no doubt, but they also had something real, and that, she knew, was worth fighting for. As they left the cafe, the evening air felt different, lighter, somehow. Emma and Liam walked side by side, and for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she could breathe. They didn't have to have everything figured out, didn't have to have a perfect plan. They just had to keep moving forward, together. Over the next few days, Liam made a concerted effort to give Emma more of his time. He cut back on some of the late-night calls, took weekends off, and actually let himself relax when he was with her. They went to a local art show, enjoyed a lazy Sunday morning together, and even talked about their future in a way that felt more real than it ever had before. Emma began to see a side of Liam she had only glimpsed before he was human, flawed, and incredibly determined to make their relationship work. It wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic moments. It was in the quiet mornings spent with him, the simple walks through the city, and the late-night conversations where they shared their dreams and their fears. One evening, as they sat on the couch in his apartment, Liam looked at her with a smile that made her heart skip. "You're right, you know," he said, his voice gentle. "We don't have it all figured out, but I'm not going anywhere, not ever." Emma smiled back, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. "Me neither," she replied, her voice soft. "We'll figure it out together." And for the first time in what felt like forever, Emma believed it. She wasn't just a part of his world. She was creating a new world with him, a world where they both belonged, where their differences didn't keep them apart but brought them closer together. No matter what the future held, Emma knew that they were ready to face it together. As the weeks went by, Emma and Liam found themselves navigating a new chapter in their relationship. The initial uncertainty that had lingered between them was slowly being replaced with trust, understanding, and a deepening love. Liam was making a conscious effort to find balance, and Emma was doing her best to accept that their worlds, though different, didn't have to tear them apart. They continued to spend time together, enjoying the simplicity of their quiet moments, while also working through the complexities that came with Liam's role as a CEO. Emma had found herself growing more confident in their relationship, but there was still a lingering question in the back of her mind: what would the future hold? Could they really make this work long-term? Liam, for his part, was doing everything he could to show her that she wasn't just another chapter in his busy life, that she was the one he wanted. But Emma's insecurities still crept in from time to time. She couldn't help but compare herself to the women in his world, the powerful executives, the high-powered professionals, and wonder if she would ever truly feel like she belonged there. It wasn't that Liam had made her feel inferior. It was more the feeling of not measuring up, of not being a part of his world in the way that he was a part of hers. One evening, as they were watching a movie in Liam's apartment, Emma found herself thinking about the future once again. She had worked hard to build a life for herself, and she was proud of what she had accomplished. But now, with Liam in the picture, everything was changing. The life she had once considered enough felt different, somehow incomplete without him. She didn't want to lose sight of her own dreams, but she also didn't want to feel like she was holding him back, like she was the one keeping him from reaching his full potential. As the movie ended, she turned to Liam, her mind racing with questions. "Liam," she began, her voice a little hesitant, "do you ever feel like we come from two different worlds?" Liam looked at her, his eyes soft with understanding. He had always known that Emma had her doubts, but he had never pushed her to open up about them. Tonight, however, he could see that she needed to talk. "What do you mean?" he asked gently, turning toward her. Emma sighed, feeling the weight of her thoughts pressing down on her. "I mean, look at us. You're a CEO, running this huge company, and I'm just, well, I'm a waitress. I've worked hard for everything I have, but sometimes I wonder if I'm enough. I wonder if this us can really work in the long run." Liam reached for her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "Emma," he said, his voice calm and steady, "you are more than enough. You've always been enough." Emma looked at him, her heart aching at the sincerity in his words. "I don't want to hold you back," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't want you to feel like you're settling for me." Liam's gaze softened, and he leaned in, placing a gentle kiss on her forehead. "You're not holding me back. You're everything I've been looking for, Emma. You make my life better. You make me want to be better." Emma's heart skipped a beat at his words. She had always known that Liam cared about her, but hearing him say it so clearly, so honestly, made everything feel more real. "But it's not just about me, Liam. It's about us, about our futures. Can we really make this work?" Can we find a way to balance everything, our differences, your career, my life? Liam paused for a moment, his expression thoughtful. He had been asked this question before, but each time, it seemed to carry more weight. I don't know what the future holds, Emma, he said finally, his voice steady but uncertain. I can't promise that everything will be perfect, but I can promise that I want to try. I want to be with you, and I want to make sure we both have the space to grow together and separately. We don't have to be the same to make it work. We just have to be committed to each other. Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had needed to hear that. It wasn't about being perfect or having everything figured out. It was about commitment, about making the effort to find common ground despite their differences. You're right, she said, her voice soft. We don't have to have all the answers. We just have to be willing to keep working at it. Liam smiled, his eyes shining with affection. Exactly. And as long as we keep communicating, keep supporting each other, I believe we can make this work. We're already on the right path. Emma smiled back, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. It wasn't going to be easy, but they were willing to put in the effort to make the necessary changes and compromises. That was all that mattered. As they sat together, hands intertwined, Emma realized that she didn't need to have all the answers right now. What she needed was to trust in herself, in Liam, and in the love they were building. The future would come, and together, they would face whatever challenges it brought. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt certain that this, whatever this was exactly where she was meant to be. As the weeks continued to unfold, Emma and Liam began to build a rhythm in their relationship that felt more stable than ever. They had spent months working through their differences, navigating the complexities of their individual lives, and coming to terms with the fact that, although their worlds had been vastly different, they could still find a way to coexist in harmony. The communication between them had improved, with both of them being more open about their feelings, fears, and hopes for the future. Emma was starting to feel more comfortable in her own skin, no longer second-guessing herself at every turn. She no longer felt like she had to prove that she was worthy of Liam's love. But that didn't mean she was free from her insecurities. There were still moments when doubt crept in, especially when she saw Liam in his world, a world filled with high-powered meetings, international business trips, and a lifestyle that seemed so far removed from her own. On one particular evening, they sat together in a park near Liam's apartment. It was a quiet, peaceful place where they could just be. Liam was looking at her with a soft smile, his arm around her shoulder. The evening sky was painted in hues of purple and orange as the sun began to set. And for a moment, it felt like the world around them had slowed down. Emma glanced at him, noticing how relaxed he seemed. It wasn't often that she got to see him this way, calm, without the pressures of his job weighing him down. I've been thinking, she began, her voice tentative, about everything, us, the future. Liam turned to her, his brow furrowing slightly in concern. What are you thinking? He asked, his tone gentle but curious. Emma hesitated for a moment before continuing. I know we've been working through a lot of things, and I know you're trying to balance your life with your work, and I really appreciate that. I do. But sometimes, I feel like I'm just a small part of your world, like I'm not really fitting in. You know? Liam's expression softened as he listened to her, and he reached out to gently touch her hand. Emma, you've always fit into my world. It's just that I've been the one who needed to make adjustments. I'm sorry if it hasn't always seemed like that. Emma shook her head, her thoughts swirling. It's not that. It's just. I look at you sometimes, and I wonder if we're on the same path. You're building an empire, and I'm just here, doing my thing. It feels like our lives are so different, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to keep up with yours. There was a long pause as Liam took in her words. Emma could feel her chest tighten, unsure of how he would respond. Finally, Liam spoke, his voice steady and reassuring. Emma, I don't want you to feel like you have to keep up with me. I don't want you to change who you are. I want us to build something together. It's not about your job or my job. It's about us. We've always been able to make it work, and that's all that matters to me. Emma looked into his eyes, searching for the sincerity she had always found there, and she saw it, his unwavering belief in them, in their relationship. But what if our worlds just don't mesh? She asked, her voice soft with doubt. What if, no matter how much we want it to work, we just keep hitting roadblocks? Liam leaned in closer, his hand gently resting on her cheek. Then we'll figure it out. Together. We're not just partners in this relationship. We're partners in life. And life, as you know, isn't always perfect. There are challenges, but we don't have to face them alone. We face them as a team. Emma felt a lump form in her throat at his words. She had been so afraid that the differences between them would eventually tear them apart, that they would grow too far apart to make it work. But Liam's words were a balm to her soul, reassuring her in a way nothing else could. She had spent so much time doubting herself, doubting whether she was enough, whether she belonged in his world. But here he was, telling her that it wasn't about the external things, it was about the bond they shared, the trust they had built. "You're right," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "We're in this together, no matter what." Liam smiled, his eyes warm with affection. "Exactly. And I don't know about you, but I don't plan on giving up on us. Ever." Emma smiled, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. They still had their struggles, their doubts, but the foundation they had built was strong enough to weather any storm. They didn't need to have all the answers right now. They just needed to keep moving forward, hand in hand, facing whatever came next. As the evening wore on, they stayed in the park, talking about their dreams, their plans for the future. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt a sense of hope and excitement about what lay ahead. She wasn't alone in this anymore. She had Liam by her side, and together they would find their way. And that was enough. As time went on, Emma and Liam found themselves growing closer, despite the many challenges they faced. They had already overcome so many obstacles: Liam's intense work schedule, Emma's doubts about fitting into his world, the fear that their lives were too different. And yet, every day, they made the effort to build something lasting, something real. Their bond felt stronger than ever. Liam had proven time and again that he was committed to making their relationship work. He was learning how to balance his career with the things that truly mattered to him, like Emma and their time together. But even with all of their progress, Emma still had lingering fears. She didn't want to be a distraction to him. She didn't want to feel like she was standing in the way of his future, especially considering the ambitious goals he had set for himself. There were moments when she could see the strain in his eyes, when he'd pick up his phone in the middle of their time together to answer a call or respond to an email. It wasn't constant, but it was enough to remind her that his world still demanded so much from him. One evening, as they sat together in Liam's apartment, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed again. The air between them felt different, distant, almost like a subtle shift she couldn't quite explain. Liam had been quieter than usual, absorbed in his work emails, even though it was well past the time he usually called it a day. Emma, trying to keep things light, asked if he wanted to go out for a walk. She had always enjoyed their late-night walks, when the city was quiet, and they could simply be with each other. But Liam barely looked up from his screen. "I can't tonight, Emma. I've got a lot of things I need to wrap up for the company," he said, his tone apologetic but distracted. Emma smiled softly, but it didn't reach her eyes. She could feel the weight of his words, and more than that, the quiet sadness in his voice. She understood the importance of his work, but she also missed the carefree moments they used to share. She missed the way he used to be so present. "I understand," she said, trying to mask the disappointment she felt. She stood up, walking over to the window, looking out at the view of the city below. She knew that he was under pressure, that his company needed him, but sometimes it felt like she was losing him to all the things he was trying to accomplish. The silence between them stretched out for what felt like an eternity. She could hear the soft hum of his typing, the clicking of the keyboard as he worked through his emails. But this time, the noise felt deafening. Emma turned to face him, her heart racing. She had to speak up, to express what was weighing on her. "Liam," she started, her voice wavering. "I need to ask you something. Are we okay? I feel like we're drifting apart. I don't know if it's just me, but I miss us. I miss the way we used to be." Liam looked up at her, his eyes softening with guilt. He immediately pushed his laptop away, standing up to approach her. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for you to feel this way. I've been so caught up in work lately that I didn't even notice how much I've been pulling away from you." He reached for her hand, his touch warm, but Emma stepped back slightly, shaking her head. "No, Liam, it's not just that. I know you're busy. I understand that. But sometimes it feels like I'm not a priority. and I don't want to be the one holding you back from what you need to do. But I can't help but wonder, where do I fit into this? Liam's heart clenched at her words. He had promised her that they would work through everything together, that their relationship would be a priority. But hearing her express these feelings made him realize how much he had fallen short. He had gotten so wrapped up in his work again that he had taken Emma's presence for granted. "I'm sorry, Emma," he said, his voice thick with sincerity. "You mean the world to me. I've let this happen without even thinking about it. I've been so focused on making sure the company survives and that I don't let anyone down, but I should never have let you feel like you were second place." Emma's eyes filled with emotion as she looked at him. She could see the genuine remorse in his eyes, the way he was taking responsibility for his actions. But even as he apologized, she realized that the root of the problem wasn't just his work, it was the fear that she wasn't enough for him, that she couldn't keep up with his world. "I just need to know that I'm not competing with your company, Liam," she said quietly. "I need to know that you still want us, no matter how much your world keeps demanding from you." Liam closed the distance between them, gently cupping her face in his hands. "I don't want to compete with anything, Emma. I don't want you to feel like you're anything less than everything to me. I don't want to let my work take over my life again. You're my partner, not just in this relationship, but in everything. I can't do this without you, and I don't want to. I love you." Emma's heart soared at his words. She had needed to hear them, but more than that, she needed to believe them. She reached up, placing her hand over his. "I love you too," she whispered, "and I'm not asking you to choose between your work and me. I just need to know that you're with me, that we're in this together, no matter what happens." Liam smiled, his thumb gently brushing her cheek. "We're in this together, Emma, always, and I promise you, I will never let anything come between us again." Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. It wasn't going to be perfect, nothing ever was, but in that moment, she knew they could make it through anything. They had faced their challenges and come out stronger. They were a team, and together they could take on whatever came next. As the months went by, Emma and Liam settled into a new rhythm. Their relationship had grown stronger with each passing day. And though they still faced challenges, they had learned how to navigate them together. They had learned the importance of communication and compromise, of understanding each other's needs and making space for both their individual dreams and shared goals. Liam had made a real effort to create boundaries between his work and their relationship, and Emma, in turn, was growing more confident in her place in his life. They spent more time together, not just in the quiet moments at home, but also in the small adventures they shared. Whether it was exploring new spots in the city, taking weekend trips, or even just sharing simple dinners, Emma began to see that she was a part of Liam's world, not just a visitor in it. But despite everything, there were still moments when Emma's insecurities would sneak up on her. She had always been independent, working hard to build her life on her own terms. And it wasn't always easy to adjust to someone else's life. She loved Liam deeply, but there were times when she wondered if she truly fit into the world he had built for himself. She hadn't expected their relationship to be without its struggles, but there were still days when the weight of their differences seemed to hang over her. One Saturday afternoon, as they sat together in a park near Liam's apartment, Emma looked over at him, her mind racing. Liam was lost in a book, but Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted again. She knew she had to talk to him about it, but the thought of bringing up her concerns made her hesitate. She had already expressed her doubts, her fears, and Liam had been nothing but supportive, but still, the uncertainty lingered. "Liam," she said, her voice soft but clear, "I need to talk to you about something." He put down his book and looked at her, his expression kind but concerned. "Of course. What's on your mind?" She paused, searching for the right words. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything, and I guess I just want to know, do you think we're on the same page?" Liam furrowed his brow slightly, sensing the seriousness in her voice. "What do you mean?" he asked, his tone gentle. Emma looked down at her hands, unsure of how to express the jumble of emotions she was feeling. "I just feel like sometimes I'm not sure where I fit into your life. You've got your career, your company, all these big plans, and then there's me, just trying to keep up, trying to figure out where I belong in all of that." Liam reached over and took her hand, his touch warm and grounding. "Emma, You don't have to keep up with anything. You don't have to fit into my world, because you already are a part of it. I told you before, and I'll say it again, you are my priority. My career, my company, none of that matters if I don't have you by my side. Emma felt her heart swell at his words, but the uncertainty still lingered in her chest. I know you've made an effort, Liam. I see it, but sometimes I still feel like I'm not enough, like I'm not living up to the world you're in, and I don't want to hold you back from your dreams. I don't want to be the reason you can't reach your full potential. Liam's expression softened, and he gently pulled her closer. Emma, you're more than enough. You always have been. I'm not with you because I think you need to change or become something you're not. I'm with you because of who you are. And as for my career and everything else, it's all a part of my life, yes, but it's not the only thing. You're just as important to me, if not more so. Emma looked up at him, her eyes searching his for the truth in his words. I just want to be sure that we're both on the same path, she said, her voice quiet. That I'm not holding you back, and that we're building something together, not apart. Liam smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. We are building something together. That's exactly what we've been doing. And yes, there will be challenges, but we're facing them together. I'm not going anywhere, Emma. You're not holding me back. You're helping me move forward. She felt a weight lift off her shoulders, but her heart was still full of questions. But what about your dreams, your goals, your career? She asked, her voice soft. I don't want to feel like I'm the one standing in the way of them. Liam shook his head, his smile reassuring. Emma, my dreams are bigger now, because you're in them. I want to build a life with you, not just a career. And if that means making some sacrifices, making room for the things that really matter, then I'll do that. I've already told you nothing matters more to me than us. Emma felt a tear slip down her cheek, but it wasn't one of sadness. It was one of relief, of gratitude. I love you, she whispered, her voice full of emotion. Liam leaned in and kissed her softly, his lips lingering against hers. I love you too, Emma, and no matter what happens, we're in this together. Always. They sat together in the park for a while longer, the quiet hum of the city around them. But for Emma, the world felt still. She knew that their journey wasn't going to be without its difficulties, but for the first time, she felt completely sure of one thing. They could face it all, as long as they had each other. As the months passed, Emma and Liam found themselves settling into a rhythm that felt right for both of them. They had worked through so many of their doubts and insecurities, learning to understand each other in ways they hadn't before. Their bond was growing stronger, and Emma was beginning to feel more confident in her place in Liam's life. She had stopped doubting whether she belonged there. The small moments of joy they shared, the quiet dinners, the spontaneous adventures, and the lazy Sunday mornings had become the foundation of their relationship. Liam had also been more present, cutting back on his work commitments to ensure that he was there for her when she needed him, and it was making all the difference. But despite the progress, Emma still found herself facing moments of uncertainty. She had always been fiercely independent, carving out her own path in life, and while she loved being with Liam, she sometimes feared that she might lose herself in his world. The contrast between their lives, though they had learned to navigate it, was something she couldn't completely ignore. She had spent years building her life from the ground up, and now, with Liam's world of luxury, power, and success constantly around her, she sometimes wondered if she could truly keep up. But it wasn't just about keeping up. It was about finding balance. It was about making sure that her own dreams and aspirations were not lost in the process of building a life with him. One evening, after spending a lovely day together exploring the city, they found themselves sitting on the balcony of Liam's apartment, enjoying the quiet after the hustle and bustle of the day. Emma had been lost in thought for a while, when Liam, sensing that something was on her mind, gently nudged her. "You've been quiet," he said softly, his eyes meeting hers. "What's going on?" Emma took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. She didn't want to seem like she was complaining, but she also knew that if they were going to make this work, she had to be honest with him. "I've been thinking a lot, Liam," she began, her voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. "About us. About where we're going. I don't want to hold you back, but sometimes I feel like I'm just not a part of your world. I try, but I wonder if I'll ever really fit into it." Liam's expression softened, and he reached out to take her hand. "Emma, you're not just a part of my world. You're the center of it. You don't have to change who you are to fit in. I love you for exactly who you are, not for anything else. I've told you that before." Emma nodded, appreciating his reassurance, but the doubt still lingered. "I know you say that, and I believe you. But sometimes, I look at all that you've built, all the success and power, and I wonder if I'm enough. If we're enough, together." Liam's heart ached at the vulnerability in her words. He had seen her struggle with self-doubt, but he had always believed in her, in them. He didn't want her to feel like she had to be anything other than herself. "Emma," he said, his voice gentle but firm, "you're more than enough. You've always been enough. And I don't need you to be anyone else. I need you to be you, the woman I love." He paused, looking deeply into her eyes. "We're a team, Emma, and as a team, we support each other. I'm not asking you to fit into my world. I'm asking you to make this world with me, our world, together." Emma felt a weight lift off her shoulders as he spoke. The fear, the insecurity that had been gnawing at her for so long, began to fade. She realized that the only way forward was to trust in Liam, trust in herself, and trust in their relationship. "I'm still figuring it out, Liam," she said quietly, her voice filled with emotion. "I don't want to lose myself in this, but I want to be with you. I want us to make this work." Liam squeezed her hand, his smile warm and reassuring. "And we will, Emma. We're already making it work. It's not about fitting in. It's about finding our own rhythm, our own way, together. I'll always make space for you in my life, but I want you to make space for yourself too. Your dreams matter just as much as mine." Emma smiled, a sense of peace settling over her. She had spent so much time worried about fitting into a world that wasn't hers, but now she realized that she didn't have to fit in. She had to find her own place in it, and with Liam by her side, that place was wherever she chose to be. The evening stretched on as they sat together, enjoying the silence and the company of one another. The future was still uncertain, but in that moment, Emma felt ready to face it. They didn't need all the answers right now. They just needed to take it one step at a time, together. And that was enough. As time continued to pass, Emma and Liam found themselves becoming more confident in their relationship. They had faced the challenges of balancing their vastly different worlds. And although there were still moments of uncertainty, they both understood each other in ways they hadn't before. Emma had realized that her insecurities, though natural, didn't define her or her relationship with Liam. She was no longer looking at their differences as barriers but as opportunities to learn and grow together. Liam, for his part, had continued to prove his commitment. He was taking time away from his work to be with her, to listen to her, and to truly be present in their shared moments. It was clear that he was willing to make the necessary sacrifices, and this made Emma feel more secure than ever. Still, even with all the progress they had made, Emma couldn't help but feel the weight of the unknown future. What would it look like for them in the long run? Could they really maintain this balance? Or would their differences pull them apart? She had spent so much of her life building her own identity, and while she was ready to share it with Liam, she didn't want to lose herself in the process. One evening, after a long day of work, they were sitting together in Liam's apartment, the city skyline illuminated outside the window. Emma had noticed that Liam seemed unusually distant, his mind clearly preoccupied with the demands of his company. She had become accustomed to his intense focus on work, but tonight it felt different, more strained. Emma, sensing his distraction, took a deep breath and decided to address it. "Liam," she said softly, her voice laced with concern, "I can see that something's on your mind. Is everything okay?" Liam looked up from his phone, his expression softening when he saw the concern in her eyes. He put the phone down and rubbed his temples. "It's just the usual stuff," he said with a sigh. "There's a big presentation coming up, and I feel like I'm carrying the weight of the whole company on my shoulders. It's exhausting." Emma reached for his hand, her touch comforting. "I know it's a lot, but you don't have to carry it all alone, you know," she said gently. "I'm here, and I want to help you, even if it's just by being here to listen." Liam gave a small, appreciative smile but looked away, clearly still weighed down by his thoughts. "I don't know if you can understand, Emma. Sometimes it feels like I'm at a crossroads. I want to be there for you, but I also have this responsibility that's always pulling me in different directions. I'm just afraid that I'm failing at both. Emma's heart ached for him, but she also understood the position he was in. He had always been someone who took on a lot, who believed in carrying the burden of responsibility. But now, she saw that he was struggling to manage it all. She squeezed his hand and leaned in closer. "I don't need you to be perfect, Liam," she said softly. "I just need you to be honest with me, to let me in. We're a team, remember? And I'm not going anywhere. You're not failing me. You're doing the best you can, and I see that." Liam looked at her, his eyes filled with gratitude. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Emma. You make it all seem so much easier. But I feel like I'm asking too much of you sometimes. You deserve more than just pieces of me." Emma smiled, brushing a lock of hair away from his face. "I'm not asking for more, Liam. I'm asking for you. All of you. The way you are. We're in this together, and as long as we're being honest with each other, we'll be fine. I don't want pieces of you. I want all of you, just as you are." For a moment, Liam just looked at her, his expression softening with affection. He could see the sincerity in her eyes, the love that she had for him, and the unwavering support she had always shown. He realized then that he didn't need to carry the world on his shoulders alone. With Emma by his side, they could face whatever came their way. "You're right," he said finally, his voice filled with conviction. "I don't need to do this alone. We'll face it all together. I don't want to lose what we have, Emma. Not for anything." Emma leaned forward and kissed him softly on the lips, her heart full of warmth. "Neither do I," she whispered. "We'll find a way to make this work. I believe in us." The days that followed brought more moments of clarity for both of them. Liam continued to take steps to ensure he was present in their relationship, setting boundaries at work and making time for Emma in ways that showed her just how much he valued her. Emma, in turn, found a renewed sense of confidence in herself. She realized that her place in Liam's life was not about fitting into a mold or trying to be someone she wasn't. It was about being true to herself and building something real with him, one day at a time. They still faced challenges, but they no longer felt like insurmountable obstacles. With each passing day, Emma and Liam grew stronger as a couple, learning how to navigate their differences while building a future together. They knew that their journey wouldn't always be easy, but as long as they had each other, they believed they could face whatever came their way. As the months went on, Emma and Liam found themselves slipping into a more comfortable routine, one that balanced their love for each other with the demands of their individual lives. They had faced so many obstacles, but now it felt like they were finally in sync, moving forward as partners. Liam continued to manage his high-pressure career, but he was learning to prioritize his personal life. He made time for Emma, for their relationship, and for the simple moments that had once seemed so elusive. And Emma, for her part, had stopped doubting herself. She no longer questioned whether she belonged in Liam's world, because she had come to realize that her world and his didn't need to be identical to be meaningful. They were building their own unique space together. Yet, even with all the progress they had made, there were still challenges to face. As the pressure of Liam's career continued to weigh on him, Emma began to sense the old tension creeping back into their lives. Liam had been working late more often, his mind preoccupied with the constant demands of his company. It wasn't that he wasn't trying, she could see the effort he was putting into being there for her, into making time for them. But the reality was that his career was still a huge part of his life. And sometimes, it felt like it took up more space than Emma was ready to share. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, Liam sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone while Emma prepared dinner in the kitchen. She had been quiet all evening, not out of anger, but because of the familiar feelings of uncertainty that had begun to bubble up again. She had told herself she wouldn't go back to feeling insecure, but it was hard when Liam seemed so far away, even when he was sitting right beside her. After a while, she could no longer keep it to herself. "Liam," she said, her voice breaking the silence. "We need to talk." Liam immediately looked up from his phone, sensing the seriousness in her tone. He put the phone down and turned toward her, his expression softening. "What's on your mind?" he asked, his voice calm but concerned. Emma paused, taking a deep breath. "I've been thinking about us, about the way things have been lately." She hesitated for a moment, trying to collect her thoughts. "I know you're doing your best to balance everything, but sometimes it feels like you're drifting away. Like I'm not really a part of your life anymore. Like your work is taking up all the space between us." Liam's heart sank at her words. He had seen the signs how Emma had become quieter, more distant, and he had hoped that it was just the stress of her own life weighing on her. But hearing her voice, her feelings made him realize how much his work had been pulling him away from her, even when he thought he was giving her his time. "I didn't mean for you to feel that way," he said, his voice full of regret. "I've been so focused on work, trying to make sure everything goes smoothly with the company, that I haven't been as present as I should be. You're right. I've been letting it take over again." Emma felt her heart ache at his admission. She knew he was trying, but she also knew that she couldn't just sit back and let this go on. "Liam, I love you," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "But I don't want to feel like I'm always the second thing in your life. I don't want to be just a small part of your world. I need to know that I matter to you as much as everything else does." Liam's face softened with understanding, and he moved to sit beside her. He took her hand in his, holding it gently. "You matter to me, Emma. You've always mattered. More than anything else. I know I've been distant, but I don't want to lose you. I don't want my work to come between us." Emma looked at him, her eyes searching his. "Then what are you going to do about it? Because I can't keep doing this, feeling like I'm not enough." Liam took a deep breath, his gaze steady on hers. "I'm going to fix it. I'm going to make time for you, for us. I don't want to just be the guy who works all the time. I want to be the man who's there for you, who builds a life with you, not just a business." Emma felt the tension in her chest begin to ease. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, hear it in his voice. He wasn't just making empty promises. He was making a commitment to her, to their future together. "I know you're trying," she said softly, "but I need to know that this is a priority for you. That you're willing to put in the effort, not just now, but for the long haul." Liam nodded, his grip tightening on her hand. "I promise you, Emma. I'm all in. I want this with you. I'm not going to let anything come between us." Emma smiled, feeling the weight lift off her shoulders. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice full of warmth. Liam smiled back, pulling her close for a hug. "I love you," he said, holding her tightly. "And I'll do whatever it takes to make sure we're okay." As they held each other, Emma realized that this was the moment they had been waiting for. It wasn't about grand gestures or promises that sounded too good to be true. It was about the simple, quiet commitment they had made to each other. They were partners in this, and they would face whatever came next, together. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but Emma felt more certain than ever that, with Liam by her side, they could face anything. She wasn't alone in this anymore. They were in it together, and that was enough. As Emma and Liam moved forward in their relationship, there was a sense of renewal between them, a fresh start built on the foundation of their love, trust, and commitment to each other. The conversation they had shared in the previous weeks, about their future and where they were headed, seemed to solidify the understanding they had both been searching for. They didn't have all the answers, but they knew they were ready to face whatever came their way, hand in hand. Liam had continued to set boundaries between work and his personal life, and Emma had made peace with the fact that their lives would never be exactly the same. She was no longer trying to fit into his world. She was creating her own place in it. It was a place where both of them could thrive, as individuals and as a couple. One weekend, they decided to take a break from the hustle and bustle of their daily lives and get away for a short trip. They chose a quiet lakeside cabin, tucked away in the mountains. The idea was simple: to escape from everything, to reconnect with each other and with themselves. No phones, no emails, just time to relax and recharge. The drive up to the cabin was peaceful, with the scenery shifting from the busy city streets to the serene green of the countryside. Emma looked out the window, the tension of the past few weeks slowly melting away. She could feel the weight of the world lifting, replaced by a sense of calm she hadn't experienced in a long time. When they finally arrived, they unloaded the car and stepped into the cabin, which was cozy and welcoming. The wooden beams, the stone fireplace, and the large windows overlooking the lake made the place feel like home. Liam smiled at her as they set their bags down. "This is perfect," he said, looking out the window at the sparkling water below. "I knew we needed this." Emma smiled back, feeling the peace of the moment settle into her. "It's exactly what we needed." They spent the next couple of days enjoying the quiet of the cabin. They hiked along the lake, cooked simple meals together, and spent hours just talking about their pasts, their dreams, and everything in between. They talked about their future, about the life they wanted to build together, but without the weight of the city or the pressure of their daily responsibilities hanging over them. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt completely at ease. They didn't need to discuss their differences, their worries, or the uncertainties about their future. They simply enjoyed being with each other, in the moment. One evening, as the sun began to set, Liam suggested they take a boat out onto the lake. They rented a small rowboat from a local dock, and as they paddled out, the world around them seemed to fade away. The lake was calm, the water smooth and reflective, and the only sound was the gentle splash of the oars in the water. They sat side by side in the boat, the sun casting a warm, golden glow over the horizon. Liam reached out and took Emma's hand, holding it gently in his. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice low and thoughtful, "about everything. About us." Emma turned to look at him, her heart fluttering in her chest. "What about us?" she asked, her voice soft. Liam smiled at her, his eyes reflecting the peace they both felt. "I want you to know that I'm committed to you. I don't want to take you or this relationship for granted. I've learned so much about myself, about us, and what we're capable of, and I want to keep building this, keep building us." Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. She had always known that Liam cared for her, but hearing him say it so openly, so sincerely, made everything feel more real. "I want that too," she said, her voice steady but full of emotion. "I want to build something with you, Liam. Not just a life together, but a future. Our future." Liam squeezed her hand, his eyes softening. "We'll build it, Emma. We've already started." For a moment they simply sat there, holding hands, letting the silence of the lake envelop them. There were no distractions, no worries, just the two of them, in the midst of the peaceful beauty of the world around them. Emma felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. In Liam's presence, she found a sense of peace she hadn't known before. Their relationship wasn't perfect, and there were still things they had to figure out, but Emma knew that as long as they were honest with each other and kept working together, they could face anything. As the night wore on, they rowed back to the shore, the stars beginning to appear in the clear sky above. They spent the rest of the evening sitting by the fire, talking about their hopes and dreams, and just enjoying each other's company. Emma realized, as she sat there with Liam, that she had found something real. She didn't need to try to fit into his world. She had already found her place in it. And in that quiet, peaceful moment, surrounded by the beauty of the lake and the warmth of the fire, she felt like everything was falling into place. They didn't have to know exactly what the future would look like. They just had to be present for each other, to keep growing, and to keep building their life together. And that, Emma realized, was enough. As the seasons changed, so did Emma and Liam's relationship. They had navigated through the uncertainties and challenges, but now, more than ever, they felt grounded in their love for each other. It wasn't perfect, no relationship ever was, but it was real, and that's all they needed. The time they spent at the lakeside cabin had been a turning point for both of them. In the quiet of the mountains, far away from the demands of their everyday lives, they had rediscovered what was truly important: each other. Their connection had deepened in ways they hadn't expected, and for the first time, Emma felt like they were on the same path. Liam had continued to make strides in finding balance between his career and their relationship. He was still the driven, ambitious man he had always been. But now, there was a shift in his priorities. He no longer saw his success as something he had to pursue at the expense of everything else. With Emma, he had learned that true fulfillment came from the people you love, not just the accomplishments you achieve. Emma had learned to let go of the doubts that had held her back for so long. She no longer felt like an outsider in Liam's world. She had carved out a place for herself, not by changing who she was, but by embracing the love they shared and the life they were building together. They were still learning and growing, but there was no longer the fear that they didn't belong together. As the months passed, they made a home for themselves, not just in the places they lived, but in each other's hearts. Emma had taken a leap of faith, trusting Liam, trusting herself, and trusting that they could weather whatever came their way. And Liam had done the same. He had made his choice. It was Emma. It always had been. One afternoon, as they were walking through the city, hand in hand, Emma stopped in front of a small boutique window. She looked in, admiring the simple, elegant jewelry displayed inside. Liam noticed her pause and turned to see what had caught her attention. "Do you like something in there?" he asked, a playful smile on his face. Emma laughed softly. "I've always liked simple things like this," she said, glancing at him with a smile. "It's not about the fancy stuff, it's the thought behind it." Liam stepped closer, looking at her with affection. "You're right," he said. "I've learned that it's not about the material things, but the moments we share." He paused for a moment, a look of determination crossing his face. "Emma, I've been thinking. About us. About the future." Emma looked at him, her heart racing. She had learned to trust Liam, but still, there was a sense of uncertainty whenever the future was brought up. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice soft. Liam took her hands in his gaze steady. "I've been thinking about how far we've come. From where we started, from all the doubts we had. And I realize now that you're everything I want. You've changed my life in ways I never thought possible, and I want to make sure that I never take that for granted." Emma's heart skipped a beat, but she smiled, her eyes searching his. "I want that too," she said, her voice full of emotion. "But we've already come so far. What else is there to say?" Liam chuckled softly, his thumb brushing the back of her hand. "There's still one thing," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "Emma, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to build a future together. I want to make all of our dreams come true, together." Emma's breath caught in her throat, and she felt a rush of emotion overwhelm her. She had dreamed of a future with Liam, but hearing him say it out loud made it feel more real than ever. "Liam," she whispered, "I don't know what to say." He smiled, his eyes bright with sincerity. "You don't have to say anything," he said. "I just needed you to know how I feel, that this, us, is everything to me." Emma smiled through her tears, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. She had never imagined her life would turn out like this, filled with love, with purpose, with someone who truly understood her. She wasn't just living her life anymore. She was living it with Liam, and that made all the difference. They stood there for a moment, in the middle of the city, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. They didn't have all the answers. They didn't need them. They had each other, and that was enough. Together, they could build the future they had always dreamed of, one step at a time, one moment at a time. And as they walked off into the future, they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side, just as they always had.